Lots of good news in the primary elections recently. In fact, two Republicans who were endorsed by Donald Trump lost. They lost. That is good news because it shows some wavering support among Republican voters. And the two primaries that I'm talking about took place in North Carolina and Kentucky. So let's start off with North Carolina. In Western North Carolina, GOP voters picked a 24-year-old investor by the name of Madison Cawthorn, who uses a wheelchair following an accident, over Trump-backed real estate agent Lynda Bennett. The runoff was for the seat vacated by GOP Representative Mark Meadows, who resigned to become Trump's chief of staff and joined his new boss in backing Bennett. So Bennett did not win the primary. The Republican that Trump favored did not win. That's the important thing to take away from this. But the 24-year-old investor that I was speaking of did win. And unfortunately, he is a Trump supporter, even though Trump didn't endorse him. Let's hear a little bit from Cawthorn, and then we'll discuss.
Mr. Meadows has been very good to me throughout my life. I wish I could have had his endorsement early on, but it appears that we did not need it. You know, we expected to win last night, but we didn't expect to win by that large of a margin. So,
have you heard from Mr. Meadows since your victory last night?
I have not heard from Mr. Meadows, but I did. I have heard from the president so far, and so you know, it was an honor getting a call from Air Force One.
What did the president say?
And
to
so,
you?
Madison, what did he say?
He congratulated me. He was talking about how amazing of a victory it was. He defined it as beautiful. You know, just talking about how impressive it was that we were able to overcome just so many large obstacles that we did. And so I really appreciate where we're at right now. I believe, you know, the president recognized that we ran a campaign that was very difficult to beat, and also that we're someone who can really help ease this partisan divide that's going on in our country right now.
So by the time he gets sworn in, he will be 25 years old, which is the age, minimum age requirement in order to be a member of Congress. And look, he's a Republican, very likely that we disagree with him on the vast majority of issues. He's a Trump supporter, very likely we don't agree with him on the vast majority of issues. But the positive takeaway here is that back in the day, if Donald Trump endorsed someone, that was a strong statement that would typically lead to whoever that candidate is winning. And right now we're dealing with a president who has a wavering base, really. We always thought of his base as supporting him no matter what, but it does appear that some people aren't buying what Trump is selling anymore. And I wanted to get your thoughts before we move on to Kentucky, John.
Yeah, when I saw this, it's really a question of like, it's how embarrassing is it for Donald Trump? I mean, obviously he would prefer that the people he endorses go on to win, but like specifically to Trump, how embarrassing is it? And to the perception of Trump. Personally to Trump, most of the endorsements he makes, whether of candidates or of books or whatever, he doesn't know anything about them. Like he doesn't actually care. He's been told to tweet once or twice about a person. So I doubt he's taking it all that personally. I mean, he'd prefer that the person he puts his label on wins so that he can then tweet, victoriously about it. But I doubt he was really all that invested in the person that this Lynda Bennett, the person that Madison beat. In terms of the impact that it has on the perception of his power, the fact that the person who beat Lynda happens to be a Trump supporter makes it a little bit easier. But then I have to imagine that virtually every single Republican that's winning a race these days at least says that they're a fan of Donald Trump. It gets a little bit ridiculous when he talks about the phone call with Trump and he says that he described it as beautiful. Well, yeah, he would. It's either strong, beautiful, or like no one's ever seen before. That's the extent of his vocabulary. And Madison is young enough and seemingly intelligent enough that I have a feeling he probably knows that. In terms of what I've read about his politics, he seems like, every other Republican imagine. He's a libertarian, but he believes some crazy things. It seems like he's less willing to go along explicitly with what some of the Republican establishment wants. We'll see if that actually continues. But
I like how you said he's a libertarian. I love how you said he's a libertarian, but he believes some crazy things. I think the right phrasing is he's a libertarian, thus he believes crazy things.
Or because.
But yes.
Maybe. But look, it's impressive no matter what. Anyone that young that can win an election, even if I never agree with him in anything in his life again, it is impressive. I'll give him that.
So Madison isn't the only non-Trump backed Republican who won in the primaries yesterday. Let's move over to Kentucky, where Republican Representative Tom Massey, a libertarian who often clashes with GOP leaders, was nominated for a 6th House term. Trump is not a fan of his. He savaged Massey in March as a quote disaster for America, who should be ejected from the party after he forced lawmakers to return to Washington during a pandemic to vote on a huge economic relief package. So Trump has been vocal against Massey, but Massey did in fact win the Republican primary in the state of Kentucky. So that is, I believe, just another embarrassing move for Trump, an embarrassing development for Trump. But look, more importantly, it shows that Trump's brand isn't as effective or as powerful as it used to be. You know, Jeff Sessions, for instance, wants his Senate seat back, and he has really embarrassed himself over and over again trying to appeal to Trump, even though you can tell that he can't stand Trump, right? And Trump keeps ridiculing him, mocking him. He mocked Jeff Sessions' accent. I mean, everything. And Jeff Sessions has had to play nice because he's so worried that if Trump keeps attacking him, then it's gonna hurt him politically. So I bring that up because it's now appearing that it's not necessarily the case that you need Trump's backing to win as a Republican candidate. And his poll numbers are also not looking so good. So for instance, there is a new poll done by, I believe, Reuters, and what they found was that his popularity is decreasing. This was actually conducted by the New York Times and Siena College. And they found that Biden, as it stands today, leads Trump by 14 points. And he's garnering 50% of the vote compared with Trump only gaining 36% of voter support in this poll. So this is good news. It shows that some of the devastation that's been caused by the Trump administration is having an impact on his polling. And it's been this way for a while now. It's not like this is the first poll that shows that Biden is leading Trump in double digits.
Yeah. Look, obviously, again, it's not where he'd want to be, but I also, it's the most obvious thing in the world. I caution everyone against getting complacent. I'm looking right now. I Googled June 2016 polls, Clinton versus Trump. She was up by 12 in a Washington Post ABC News poll, and that didn't turn out great. So, I mean, look, obviously, the joy that I get out of it on a temporary basis is the fact that I know that it's enraging Donald Trump literally every day, and that's the only thing I get to be happy about. So there's that. But in terms of what effect it should have on how we behave electorally, no, still support candidates, donate money, make calls, to the extent that you can canvass, do all of that stuff. Because the actual satisfaction comes the day after election day, assuming he doesn't contest the results.
I think that it is, I would be shocked if he didn't contest the results if he loses. But I think you're right. I think one of the biggest mistakes that Democratic voters could make is to get complacent.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.